The hotel shuttle pulled up in front of the Atlantis Cliff Hotel, and Lana stepped out onto the curb. It was one of the city's most refined establishments, known for its exceptional service and elegant atmosphere. A bellboy quickly took charge of her luggage, stacking the bags neatly onto a cart before handing her a small receipt and offering a polite welcome. As she approached the grand entrance, a doorman tipped his hat in greeting and swung open the heavy brass door, allowing her to step inside. The bellboy followed at a respectful distance as Lana strolled toward the front desk, her eyes casually scanning the lobby for any sign of Ethan. She had written to him, asking him to meet her here, but as she took in the sight of well-dressed guests lounging in plush chairs and sofas scattered across the spacious room, she didn't see her husband anywhere. A wave of unease settled over her. She wasn't sure how Ethan would react when they finally saw each other again. Their last conversation had been anything but pleasant. He had been livid when he called her weeks ago, catching her in bed with Cole while she was in Colombia. At the time, his anger had been sharp, but Lana had given him his freedom during her 6-week trip. She had no doubt that Hannah, their neighbor, had made sure Ethan wasn't lonely in her absence. Hannah and her husband were swingers, and she had a magnetic allure that turned heads wherever she went. It was no secret that men in their neighborhood openly admired Hannah whenever she walked by. She had made her intentions toward Ethan crystal clear. She wanted him, and not just in a friendly way. Lana hoped he had enjoyed his temporary break from their marriage, but now that she was home, she intended to put an end to their mutual hall pass arrangement. She didn't want another woman, especially one as enticing as Hannah, to complicate things between her and Ethan. As she thought about it, guilt crept in. She hadn't spoken to Ethan since that explosive phone call from her hotel room with Cole. The medical team had been swamped with surgeries during the day, leaving little time for long conversations. The people they treated had traveled great distances, desperate for care from skilled American doctors, and Lana had felt a deep sympathy for them. When the team did manage to squeeze in some sightseeing, she snapped photos, Mount Montserrat among them, and sent Ethan a few messages with updates. But he never responded. Not once. Maybe he was still nursing his wounds. Still, Lana believed in their love. He was her husband, and no matter how long it took, she was certain they would find their way back to each other. Now that their kids were grown and out of the house, she was ready for this new phase of their lives, and she intended for them to spend it together. If anything, her time with Cole had given her a fresh perspective. It made her appreciate Ethan in ways she hadn't before. Cole had his skills in bed. He liked to push boundaries, but there had never been any real love between them. Once their affair was no longer a secret, his arrogance became unbearable. The cocky attitude she once found exciting quickly turned into something ugly. Cole was demanding, not just physically but emotionally, and he seemed to take pleasure in belittling her. After Ethan found out, Cole ramped it up, pressuring her into things she had never done for her husband. The more degrading it was, the more of a thrill he got out of it. He even mocked Ethan to her face, making her answer humiliating questions. Who do you like better? Mine or your husband's little one? At first, his crude comments sent a jolt through her, but over time, they lost their thrill. Instead, they irritated her. Then they angered her. When she finally worked up the nerve to tell him to knock it off, he doubled down, taking the insults to an even nastier level. He painted Ethan as a weak, pathetic husband, someone who should feel honored to be humiliated by Cole. After a while, Lana stopped arguing, hoping he'd get bored and let it go. He didn't. By the time their trip was coming to an end, she felt drained, used, and disgusted. At the airport in Bogota, she finally broke things off. She told Cole she was done, that she was going home to rebuild her marriage and focus on Ethan. Cole barely reacted. He just shrugged and said, "You were fun, but I was getting bored of you anyway. This is for the best. Enjoy your pathetic husband." He even switched seats with Natalie so he wouldn't have to sit next to Lana on the long flight home. Looking back, she couldn't believe how deeply she had been drawn to him. Now, all she saw was a selfish, egotistical jerk. She was actually relieved that she wouldn't have to sit beside him for hours on the plane. Instead, Natalie took the seat next to her. Both of them were exhausted, either in the mood for much conversation. At one point, Natalie quietly admitted that Ethan had called her hotel room. He knew she had been cheating on her husband, Brandon, with one of the doctors. Lana exhaled, sinking into her seat. It seemed like there were plenty of shattered marriages to go around. Thankfully, Ethan had assured Natalie that he wouldn't breathe a word of her affair to Brandon. She knew her husband had zero tolerance for cheating, and if he ever found out, it would be the end of their marriage. Relieved that she had narrowly escaped disaster, she was able to enjoy the rest of her time in Bogota, fully indulging in her secret relationship. But her luck ran out the moment they landed back home. As she and Lana stood at baggage claim, waiting for their luggage to appear, a young woman approached Natalie with a purposeful stride. "Are you Natalie Caldwell?" she asked. Natalie, caught off guard, hesitated before answering. "Yes?" The woman handed her a large manila envelope and said flatly, "You've been served. Have a nice day." Lana watched in stunned silence as the woman stepped back and snapped a quick photo of Natalie holding the envelope, proof that the papers had been delivered. Natalie stood frozen for a moment before the reality of the situation hit her like a freight train. Her face crumpled, and she broke down in tears. Lana, along with a few others from their trip, rushed to comfort her. They murmured reassurances, offering hollow words like, "Maybe you can talk to him. Maybe he'll forgive you." But everyone knew the truth. Her marriage was as good as over. Natalie eventually managed to pull herself together, though every attempt she made to call Brandon went straight to voicemail. It was clear he had already blocked her. With no idea what awaited her at home, she gathered her luggage and ordered an Uber to her parents' house, which was in the same town she had shared with Brandon. As Lana waited for her own bags, a new worry crept into her mind. She found herself scanning the terminal, her eyes darting from one person to the next, half expecting to see another process server lurking nearby, clutching a thick envelope with her name on it. Had Ethan been angry enough to file for divorce? Was she about to be ambushed the same way Natalie had been? But as the minutes passed and no one approached her, a sense of relief washed over her. If Ethan had truly wanted to end things, she figured he would have taken action by now. Instead, she believed he had calmed down since their heated phone call weeks ago. He hadn't responded to her messages, but maybe he had been working through his feelings. In any case, she was certain he would meet her at the hotel soon. And she couldn't wait to see him. As she made her way to the hotel front desk, her thoughts drifted to their reunion. She missed him more than she ever had before. Being with Cole for 6 weeks had only made her appreciate Ethan's presence in her life. His strengths, his flaws, she cherished them all. Once they both got tested for STDs, she longed to be in his arms again, craving the comfort and familiarity only he could provide. Her time with Cole left her feeling tainted, used, like a cheap, disposable object that had served its purpose. The way things had ended between them made her feel like some washed-up adult film star, forced to degrade herself just to stay relevant. Shaking off the dark thoughts, she forced a smile onto her face. She refused to let her past mistakes dictate her future. All that mattered now was rekindling what she had with Ethan. As she stepped up to the front desk, she secretly hoped he would already be there, waiting anxiously for her return. But as she glanced around, her heart sank. There was still no sign of him. The hotel clerk, a young Hispanic man dressed in a crisp suit, looked up from his computer screen. His polished name badge read Jose Gomez, front desk. Flashing a bright, professional smile, he greeted her warmly. "Welcome to the Atlantis Cliff Hotel. How may I assist you today?" "I'm checking in," Lana replied. "There should be a reservation under Lana Mitchell." Jose nodded, fingers gliding over the keyboard as he searched for her booking. "Ah, yes. I see you're here for one night, is that correct?" "That's right. Just one night." "Perfect. We have you in a room on the 10th floor with a lovely cityscape view." He reached for a pair of key cards. "How many will you be needing?" Lana hesitated briefly before answering. "Better make it 2. My husband should be joining me." "Of course. Jose replied smoothly. And which credit card would you like to use for the room and any incidentals? Lana dug into her purse and pulled out her visa, handing it over. Here you go. Thank you, ma'am. He swiped the card and busied himself preparing the keycards. A moment later, his smile faded slightly as he glanced back at the screen. I'm sorry, Ms. Mitchell, but your card has been declined. Lana's stomach tightened. That wasn't possible. She hadn't even used her credit cards in Bogota. Doctors Without Borders had covered the trip's expenses, and whenever she and Cole went out, he had always picked up the tab. She had only brought 2 cards with her visa and her Discover, and she had left them, along with her passport, locked in the hotel safe to avoid theft. Had someone stolen her credit card number while she was away? The thought made her uneasy. She'd have to talk to Ethan about it. Trying to remain calm, she forced a small chuckle and reached back into her purse. No problem, she said. Let me try another one. Do you take Discover? Lana asked, handing over her other card and retrieving the declined visa. Yes, ma'am. Let me run this one for you. The clerk gave her a reassuring smile, but Lana could already feel the eyes of the couple behind her in line. She shifted uncomfortably as he swiped the card, his fingers tapping at the keyboard. But then, his polite smile faltered again. I'm sorry, Ms. Mitchell. This card has also been declined. Do you have another one you'd like to try? Heat crept up Lana's neck. She could feel the young couple behind her growing impatient. She hated the way they were probably judging her, some woman who couldn't even pay for her hotel room. She forced a tight smile. Those are the only 2 cards I have with me. I just got back from 6 weeks out of the country, so something must be wrong. Let me step aside and call my husband to figure it out. The clerk nodded, his expression neutral. Of course. I hope you're able to get it sorted. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Lana muttered a quick, thanks, and stepped away from the desk, feeling brushed aside as the couple behind her took her place. Even the bellboy, who had been patiently waiting with her luggage, abandoned her cart in favor of helping the new guests. Damn. That was humiliating. Trying to shake it off, Lana pulled her phone from her purse. She had turned it off for the flight, and, with all the chaos at the airport, Natalie's very public divorce bombshell, she hadn't remembered to turn it back on. She powered it up, entered her passcode, and waited, expecting to see a flood of missed messages from Ethan. But when the screen loaded, it was empty. No texts. No voicemails. Nothing. That was odd. Frowning, she tapped on her phone app and pressed Ethan's contact. His picture, one she had snapped of him at a cookout last summer, smiled back at her. As her thumb hovered over the call button, she noticed another familiar name in her favorites list. Cole. She grimaced. She needed to delete his number. But first, she had to talk to Ethan. She pressed the call button and lifted the phone to her ear, expecting the usual ringtone. Instead, an automated voice filled the line. The number you have dialed has been disconnected and is no longer in service. Lana's breath caught. What the hell? She pulled the phone away from her ear and stared at the screen, as if it might explain what was happening. Before she could process it, a shadow moved in her peripheral vision. Excuse me, ma'am, a voice said. She turned sharply to find a man standing before her, dressed in a sharp suit. She recognized him. He had been sitting in one of the lobby chairs when she first arrived. Are you Lana Mitchell? Something about his tone put her on edge. Yes, she answered hesitantly. Can I help you? The man gave her a polite, almost sympathetic smile. No, ma'am. But your husband Ethan wanted you to have this. He held out a large manila envelope. Lana hesitated for a split second before taking it. As soon as she did, the man nodded and said, Have a nice day, before turning on his heel and heading toward the exit. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched the envelope. But then, she relaxed. He hadn't said those dreaded words. You've been served. And he hadn't taken a picture of her holding it, like the process server had done with Natalie. Maybe this wasn't something bad. Maybe it was a letter from Ethan, explaining where to meet him. A surprise, even. A hopeful buzz lit up inside her, and she quickly made her way to the nearest upholstered chair. She needed to know what was inside right now. Sliding her finger under the flap, she pulled out the contents. 2 things, a folded letter and a smaller, stiffer envelope. Her pulse quickened as she unfolded the letter and started to read. Underscore 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 underscore. Lana, I'm no coward. But as a man and as your husband, I can't ignore the way you've shattered our marriage, the vows we took, the trust we built. You justified your actions by assuming I had a whirlwind affair with Samantha while we were in Iraq. I did not. I won't lie. I regret that there was a moment between us that wouldn't pass the spouse test. It happened the night we returned to base after our convoy was ambushed by insurgents. We were lucky. Others weren't. We came back shaken, alive by nothing short of luck. After debriefing, I walked Samantha to her quarters. She was trembling, barely holding herself together. As I turned to leave, she pulled me into a hug, tight, desperate, full of relief and grief all at once. And then she kissed me. I didn't push her away right away. For a moment, we got caught up in it, kissing like we were teenagers again, fueled by adrenaline, fear, and the sheer fact that we had survived. But that's as far as it went. We did not sleep together. It was a mistake. One I regret. But it was a moment of raw emotion, not a calculated betrayal. Not something I planned, pursued, and indulged in the way you did. I have been faithful to you for over 20 years, Lana. You are the only woman I have ever been with since the day we said I do. Can you say the same? I know about Cole. And I know about the man you met at the Red Roof Inn while I was on assignment in Korea. Someone saw you there, Lana. Someone who had no reason to lie. I know you parked at the Red Roof Inn because of construction, but that doesn't explain why you routinely arrived hours before your shift started. I had my suspicions, so I hired a private investigator to look into it. Turns out, he couldn't identify the man you were meeting, but you and I both know what was going on. Only you know how many times you broke our vows. For some dumb reason, I decided to let the Red Roof affair slide. I was overseas, and clearly you had needs you wanted someone else to fulfill. At least you were discreet. You didn't flaunt it, and from what I could tell, you ended it as soon as I came back. That counted for something, I guess. But your letter made one thing crystal clear. You unilaterally decided that in our marriage, one spouse could do whatever they wanted without the other's consent. What a brilliant concept. You expected me to jump into bed with Hannah like she was some kind of consolation prize. That turned my stomach. I never touched her. But I did invite her and Owen over for dinner while you were gone. And surprise, surprise, turns out you had already been sleeping with Dr. Cole. Not only that, but you tried to pull Hannah and Owen into some swinger fantasy without even telling me. Hannah was shocked. She thought you had already talked to me about it. She was pissed when she found out you hadn't. Apparently, in the swinger world, the first rule is honesty with your spouse. Who knew? Hannah and Owen sure as hell don't condone your sneaky, self-serving behavior. I guess under your new marriage rules, you didn't think you needed to run these things by me first. You and Cole were off playing doctor in Colombia, and I wanted to make sure you were safe in such a dangerous place. So, I did you a favor. I paid off and canceled all our joint credit cards. Wouldn't want some shady guy taking advantage of you, now would I? Remember when we met with the estate planning attorney years ago? She helped us with our wills, set things up in case of an emergency. I had almost forgotten she also drafted power of attorney documents for both of us. After our little chat while you were in Cole's hotel room, I decided to update my life insurance beneficiaries. Took you off. Left it all to the kids. While going through our files, I found the power of attorney paperwork. Guess what? They were still valid. And they worked like a charm. I really like this whole unilateral decision-making thing, by the way. Thanks for the idea. I only used the POA once, hope you don't mind. After I was done, I shredded both of them. You're welcome. I needed it to sell our house and cars, you know, since we owned them jointly. Don't worry, I got good prices. Remember that sweet young couple, Adam and Molly Carter? The ones who loved our house but needed more space for their growing family? Well, they own it now. They love it. I told them you were on an extended assignment, so you couldn't make it to the closing to wish them well. But feel free to stop by. I'm sure they'd love to thank you. Selling the cars was even easier. I took them to some used car lots, shopped around for the best offers. Sold them for cash. The dealers were thrilled, said my car would sell in no time. I was happy for them. Oh, and I got a new phone. New number, new carrier. Cancelled my line from our family plan. I might send you the number someday, if I remember it. Now, here's the best part. I'm not divorcing you. Not because I want you back, I don't. I just don't care about divorce. I'm never getting married again, so why waste my time? Instead, I used some of the money from the house and car sales to hire a private investigator in Colombia. Got some interesting audio and photos of you and Dr. Cole. Maybe they should rename that program Doctors Without Morals. Speaking of your extracurriculars, wow. I had no idea you were into that level of depravity. I really hope you rinse your mouth with plenty of mouthwash afterward. But hey, why should I be the only one to know about your shenanigans? I figured your HR department would appreciate the information. So on Friday, while you and your good doctor were flying home, I had a lovely chat with Ms. Caldwell, the hospital's HR manager. She could not believe what I was telling her. She was furious. I told Ms. Caldwell I was planning to sue the hospital for failing to enforce the moralities clause in their employment contracts, since, you know, their negligence ruined my marriage. I let her know that first thing Monday morning, a courier would be delivering copies of the enclosed photos and private investigator report. Oh, and I also mentioned that I'd be including a short, signed contract. The deal? I'd agree to hold the hospital harmless for your extracurricular activities if they agreed to fire both you and Dr. Cole, for cause, and refuse to give either of you a positive reference for future jobs. She seemed very interested in avoiding a lawsuit. After all, bad press and legal trouble aren't great for a hospital's reputation or bank account. I have a feeling Monday is going to be an interesting first day back for you. But hey, since you conveniently forgot to tell me that our marriage had suddenly turned open before running off on your 6-week love fest with Dr. Smarty Pants, I figured I could conveniently forget to mention something to you too. I've always wanted to roam the open roads of this great country before I got too old to do it. So, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm heading out on an extended road trip, probably at least a year, maybe longer. Renting an RV from a buddy of mine from the service, so don't bother trying to track me down through vehicle registrations. It's not even in my name. Of course, to make this plan work, I had to downsize big time. I only kept the essentials and packed the RV. Everything else? Gone. I might have called you to see if there was anything you wanted to keep, but I didn't want to bother you. After all, the one time I called while you were in Colombia, you and your soulmate acted so annoyed with me. Wouldn't want to spoil the mood. So, I went ahead and sold all the furniture and my tools. Donated some of my clothes, and all of yours. And for the final touch, I had a nice little Bon Voyage bonfire for anything sentimental. That included our wedding photos, your wedding dress, and any pictures of the two of us together. I did keep the photos of the kids growing up. Funny thing, I had no idea burning photos made so much smoke. Gary from next door saw it billowing up from the backyard and came over to check on me. I just told him I was having a little bonfire, just once, if he didn't mind. He didn't mind at all. Now that we've got an open relationship, I won't have to turn down female companionship while I'm traveling. Good thing the military kept me in shape. From what Hannah said, I think I'll do just fine out there. I also let the kids know about your affairs and that I was heading out on an extended road trip. They were sad, but they understood. They asked me to send updates and photos from my travels, and I told them I would, as long as they didn't share my new number with you. They agreed. Don't worry though. I promised I'd call you just as many times as you called me while you were in Colombia with Dr. Cole. That number was 0, in case you forgot. I'm leaving on my solo adventure the day you get back. And don't stress about expenses. I made sure I'd be financially comfortable. I pocketed all the money from the house and car sales, plus what was in our bank accounts. I left your retirement account alone, but I cashed out mine and paid the early withdrawal penalty. This open relationship thing sure has been educational. If you ever get tired of it, maybe because you want to marry your knight in shining scrubs, you're welcome to file for divorce on grounds of abandonment. I won't contest it, and I won't change the grounds to infidelity. I've already gotten everything I need out of our marriage. 2 wonderful kids. A few decent memories. And a pile of cash. Oh, and let's not forget the digital copies of those photos from Colombia. I made sure to share them with family, friends, and coworkers so nobody thinks I just ran off without good reason. I even sent a few choice shots to every email in both of our contact lists. Thoughtfully CC'd you on the email, too, so you'll see what I shared next time you log in. Now, before I sign off for good, I was feeling weirdly generous. So, enclosed in the smaller envelope is a $500 Visa gift card. Consider it a parting gift. This letter is the last time you'll hear from me. I'm giving it to you just once, if you don't mind. Enjoy your new life, Lana. Leave a comment with your thoughts on the story. And subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new interesting stories. See you soon.